let's get into main topic number one. Rob, what is our first main topic today?
Well, John Ayman writes in and says, hello, John. So the Suicide Squad dropped a massive 70% on the second weekend and came in the 5th spot in the box office derby. I don't think we can still point to the Delta variant as the reason when your $185 million movie came in the 5th spot on the second weekend. This is a complete disaster. James Gunn deserves much better. What do you think, John? Well, John, I can tell you what I think, and I don't think he's wrong. It is, I think, a real bummer. I actually watched Suicide Squad again for a second time this weekend, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's so much fun. But I was thinking when I was watching it, why didn't this movie connect? And I really, and it might not have connected the way we all thought it did. It's really niche. I mean, it has a very specific tone to it that is very much James Gunn. You see it in Slither, you see it in Super, you've seen it in Guardians of the Galaxy. But where Guardians of the Galaxy, even though it had Groot and it had Rocket in it, I think it was more accessible in terms of its humor to general audiences. Suicide Squad is really more along the lines of Slither. And I think that you have to have a certain sensibility, maybe, and that it might not cross over to all audiences the way Guardians of the Galaxy did. I mean, that's kind of what I came away the second time. And Forbes says this: alas, the Suicide Squad found in week 2, dropping a massive 70.5% from an already disappointing 26.1 million opening weekend. That's the biggest drop ever for a big comic book superhero movie, below only the 78% drop for Shaquille O'Neal's Steel. Oof, ouch. A $17 million Warner Brothers flick that opened with just $870,008 in 1,260 theaters 23 years ago today, among all relevant comic book superhero flicks. I also wanted to say one more thing, John. The HBO Max release, I mean, for me, it was like, I want to watch this movie again. Oh, I just laid down on my bed and clicked it on HBO Max instead of going to the theater. I think all of these things are contributing factors. What do you think?
Well, I mean, yeah, you look at this. Look, we always tell people, under normal circumstances, normally, what you want to see generally is a 50 to 60% drop at the box office from week 1 to week 2. That's an acceptable range. That's pretty standard. If you drop less than 50%, that's awesome. I mean, that's cause for celebration. Anything over 60%, it's cause for concern. And 70, that's huge. Listen, there are several, just like the opening weekend, there's no one magic bullet here. There's no one thing that made Suicide Squad underperform, particularly for the quality of movie that it is. Because this movie, you and I agree, Rob, this movie's outstanding. This is an absolutely fun, wonderful, fantastic film. And we went through all the lists before about, what was working against it. We talked about all the things working against it before the movie ever came out. We didn't just, hop on the bandwagon and do a post-mortem. Like, we gave a list of things. This is why Suicide Squad is going to struggle at the weekend, despite the fact that it's so good. And sure enough, it did. When you're going into the second weekend, 2 things become most prominent. One, the pandemic, because with the pandemic, what you've got is more people weeded out of the people who want to go see it are going to go see it opening weekend. The people who are comfortable to go to the movies, they're going to go to the movies on the opening weekend. But Rob, you cannot underplay. This is a huge HBO Max issue. This is a big HBO Max issue because you are not going to get second viewings, even from people that love the movie. Rob, you and I have friends that love Suicide Squad and they went to the theater to see it, but then when they wanted to watch it again, they just sat at home and watched it at home. I mean, that's the thing. You eliminate second time viewings from that and you're going to get a big drop off from that. So we already have an environment where people who are comfortable with going to the movie, they're going to go earlier. And then the HBO Max thing killing any second viewings. Now, some people might want to bring up, well, John, look at Jungle Cruise. Jungle Cruise took a 55% drop, which is significantly less of a drop than Suicide Squad did, and it had home viewings as well. Yes, but the difference between Suicide Squad and Jungle Cruise was that Jungle Cruise, you actually had to pony up another $30 to be able to watch it at home. Whereas with HBO Max, if you have HBO, you don't have to pony up any more money. And so, look, I'm not saying that HBO Max is the main reason the first weekend had such a struggle. I mean, we gave a big list of 9 things there, Rob, about why we felt the first weekend struggled. But we said last week that HBO is really going to kill second weekend stuff because no second viewings. And Rob, like when I go to see a movie for a second time or a third time on the following weekend, I'm usually bringing different people with me. Like I go to see it one weekend with certain friends and I go to see it another weekend with other friends. That's out the window too. So if you're looking for things that account for that extra 12, 13, 14%, I think, look, like everything else, there's not one reason, but I think you'd have to be sticking your head in the sand a little bit not to acknowledge that the HBO Max factor is absolutely huge in killing second weekend, especially with a good film like this. So, and again, you know, they said it right in the question, Rob, James Gunn deserved better. He delivered an amazing, entertaining, fun film. And it's really too bad for the results that it is getting. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. 70%. Can't gloss that over. That is a huge drop from an already small opening weekend for a movie like Suicide Squad. What do you attribute it to? Do you agree with us? A lot has to do with HBO Max. It could be the pandemic. How are you guys feeling about it? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.